We're continuing with our coaches check-in series with head football coach Sherman Wood. Coach, 2019 was a tremendous year. NJAC champions, going to the NCAA tournament, making it all the way to the quarterfinal round. How are you looking to build on that success from last season?
Yes, we definitely had a great season last year. I mean, to go undefeated in the regular season, to win the conference also, and obviously to get to the quarterfinals, being one of the top 8 programs in the country, that's definitely something to be proud of. Our kids definitely demonstrated great team chemistry throughout the year. They did a super job of having a family atmosphere. More importantly, great locker room presence. But to be honest with you, we did a real good job off the field. I mean, our kids, we had over 35 kids with a 3.0 GPA. We had a host of other kids who was definitely close to that. And we had a lot of accolades. So all region kids, a host of all conference kids, all American. So we definitely have something to be proud of. Definitely one of the top teams, if not the top team since I've been here. I can go back to 2004 with that 2004 team that was led by Dustin Johnson. I think that team really started the 16 consecutive postseasons for our program. Then I can go in the middle of 2000s with 2011 with Dan Griffin, and we went to the quarterfinals against Wisconsin Whitewater. So and those guys averaged 47 points, 44 points a game, and only gave up 8 points a game. But then we get back here to this 2019 team, probably the most total team I've had, and I'm really, really proud of those guys. So, like I said, we did a great job on the field, and more importantly, we did a great job off the field.
You said guys did a great job off the field, uh, doing what you need to do in the classroom. How's the stay-at-home order affected uh, communicating with your team and trying to make sure those academic goals are met, uh, despite people being away from campus?
Well, I mean that is a great question because when this thing all ended, I believe it was March 13th when everything just went crazy in terms of on campus and closing the campus. Um, I thought it was important to take a couple weeks of transitioning. Our kids were still trying to figure out what was going on with this whole process, and then going on getting involved with online courses and things of that nature. So before we got into anything, it was important to make sure that our kids was on track with their online courses. We reached out to all the tutorial services on campus, the Center for Student Achievement. Those people are really, really great. They do a great job for not only athletics but all the students on campus. But the main thing, we wanted to make sure that the kids was in a position to master their classes online because they were still trying to adjust to what was going on. So that was number one. Number two, once they got adjusted to everything, I know the spring sports was definitely it was a big deal. Not really finishing the season. That's really tough, no question about it. But at the same time, we was in spring football, and we only had the opportunity to practice 4 times. So obviously, what we did after our kids got accustomed to the online courses, uh, in the evenings we would send them plays to introduce them the plays that we actually was going to introduce during spring football. So we finished basically what we were doing was finishing spring football with introducing them to certain plays and making sure number one they were safe at home and everything was all good. We want to make sure they knew that we were supporting them wholeheartedly. So we did that. Obviously, there was a host of Zoom meetings, with the position coaches as well as myself. I had a chance to, fill in with some of the position Zoom meetings, met with the team, and mainly we just talked about just being strong, staying healthy, just anticipate something happening as soon as possible. You never know, but just be ready. And obviously, our strength organization, our strength staff, led by Mike Nine, was able to get some information out to our kids to keep them active as well. So I think they were pretty busy with the classwork, with spring football. And with training, I thought they definitely held their own when it came to those type of activities. So we pretty much started with that. Recruiting wise, during this time, to be honest with you, it helped out a lot. I mean, we was able to evaluate. I mean, we're fine with our upcoming class coming in. Our 2020 class is still intact as far as coming in. But we had as a staff, we evaluated over 7,000 2021 recruits. And then what we did, we started planning for the future. We sort of adjusted our evaluation grading scale. So our grading scale, with the 5-star, 4-star, just like a lot of other people have. But what we did in the past, we used to have a 3-star, and the 3-star used to be, okay, we want to bring that kid in. But now we're just focusing on the 5 and 4, and the 3-star is a maybe kid. We like to have them, but we want to reach out to those 5 and 4 stars, and they can be high level people. But we want to plan for the future. We want to make sure that we continue to stay competitive. In order to have the type of season we had, I don't know if that's going to happen, but we're going to definitely strive for it. But we're putting everything in place to make those things happen. So I think we did a pretty good job, and we're in a position now. We have some idea who we want to target when it comes to recruiting next year.
Now, do you feel that Division One and Division Two had a dead period of where they couldn't talk to recruits at all? Do you feel like that gave you guys a little bit of advantage when Division Three had no restrictions on communicating with recruits or potential student athletes? Do you feel like that helped you guys out in the long run?
Well, I think, obviously we're not in a position where we compete with FBS schools, but the FCS schools, schools like Towson and Monmouth and some of those, as they say, the old 1AA programs, yes, we had opportunity. We compete, with those type of programs, from a secondary perspective. But it definitely helped because kids, they want to hear from someone. They were out there, they were hungry. Usually the feedback that we normally don't get. Well, we did receive the feedback from some of those kids this time, and I think definitely it helped a lot. At the same time, I think again it would help enhance our recruiting process. Everyone wants to be loved, no doubt about it. So, no question, when we was in a position to reach out to people, no doubt about it, we took full advantage of it.
Everything being on the back end of, feel like things are starting to get open back up. People are starting to get outside and try to reacclimate themselves to a little bit of normal life. Since we've been at home for seems like forever. But what different tactics do you see like you have to implement for next season in order to maintain that kind of if there is a social distancing or a different aspect you have to implement into your coaching tactics for next season?
Yeah, well, number one, and obviously you want to make sure that whatever decision that's made, that it's all for the betterment of everyone. Make sure we're all safe, students, staff, administrators. We just want to make sure that it's a done deal. We know that everyone's going to be totally safe because I was listening to Herm Edwards the other day, and Arizona State head football coach, Arizona State. Everyone knows Herm Edwards. Back in the NFL days, Herm made it clear that the last time he checked, there's no social distancing in football, and there isn't. That. So whatever decision that is made, we want to make sure it's made for the betterment of everyone, because once it's made, we're hoping that we can go full steam ahead. And I'm sure we're going to be careful. We're going to go through the proper guidelines, and we're going to follow the medical advice all the way through. Obviously, that's important, but we are still planning as if there's going to be a fall. So we're preparing our kids to be in shape, to be prepared, to be ready to go, and to defend our title. So I had a chance to speak with quite a few guys yesterday actually, the last couple of days, and they're excited. They're ready to go. And but we just try to tell them, just be patient, continue to work out, continue to train. A lot of the kids now, I talked to the kids before they got into the finals in the last week of school. So we just told them finish strong there. Everything's going to work itself out. Just be ready to go when that time comes. So we're preparing just like we was here in the office. Just trying to take care of all of our prep work for camp, physicals, whatever the case may be. But at the same time, I'm doing the best I can to communicate with the kids to just make sure they know that we're here for them and just continue to do what you can.
You are talking about preparation and making sure kids are staying in shape. From a switch, kind of a switching gears standpoint, the sport of football has gone through a lot of changes in the past, probably 10 years from, if you were looking at football maybe from like the 90s, early 2000s, where it's that hard hitting football and people were obviously leading with their helmets and tackling or something like that, where you got to stick people, lay people out, blocking, things like that. But in the past, decade or so, the sport of football has changed for a more safer and more conducive environment for those head injuries and trying to limit those and also making sure that people have those kind of proper techniques. So how are you in Salisbury football trying to adjust to those differences and changes in football?
I tell you what, we here at Salisbury, a lot of people really follow our lead. Number one, we want the game to be safe. Obviously, we want to make sure that parents and kids and everyone know that what we do here at Salisbury is we want to do everything we can to keep the game safe. I can give you one example is we emphasize rugby tackling. What is rugby tackling? Some people have some idea about rugby. And basically what we do is we want to teach things that stays away from the head and neck. And to be honest with you, this has been going on for quite some time. Even from the time that I was here under Coach McGlinchey, we never taught tackling with anywhere near the head and neck. Now, there are some incidental situations that happen, but in our situation, we want to make sure that we teach from the hip on down as far as tackling, wrapping and rolling, those type of things in terms of teaching the proper way of tackling. So that's something we reached out. We had our defensive staff, Coach D, and some of the other defensive staff members reached out had a chance to take a look at the Seattle Seahawks when Dan Quinn, our Salisbury alum, who's the head coach of Atlanta Falcons right now, he was on the staff back there in 2014 when he was a DC, and a gentleman on their staff by the name of Rocky Sato. Rocky introduced what they call rugby tackling, and there's some clips that you can find online about that. And I thought it was great, and our staff grasped that philosophy. And basically, what it is, you still can play full speed, you still can run to the football just like anyone else. But now you're not targeting, you're not targeting anything upper body. You're targeting the hip. You're trying the hip to the thigh. And once you get to that point, you want to wrap, grab, and try to take them back. And rugby players has been doing that for quite some time. And remember now, rugby, they don't have helmets. So they had to have proper tackling. And so that's what we do. And in 2012, when we was part of the Empire 8 football conference, I was asked to help the conference in reaching out to the youth organizations and try to continue to introduce the proper way of tackling. So I can tell you, right across the country, our football coaches, youth level, high school, and college, and obviously the NFL, we all got together as an association and said, look, this game of football, everyone loves. No matter what sport you play, no matter who you are, everyone loves football. And so we knew it's a popular sport. So we want to do everything to try to eliminate the myth and try to make sure that we minimize all those reports about concussions and injuries. And we needed to do something as a coaching association. We needed to address those things. And we continue to speak at our conventions. We continue to demonstrate the proper ways of making sure this game is safe. And we're going to continue to do that. So I welcome anyone to come out to see and witness one of our practices, and you'll see that we're definitely doing everything we can to make sure we keep the game safe, but play at a high level. Play at a high level. Try to be successful, and make sure that we're in good shape there.